Well, hey there, everybody. I'm back from Milwaukee after getting the opportunity and just the absolute pleasure of commentating both the Classic Constructed Battle Hardened and the ProQuest Plus. And look, a thing happened. A thing has occurred. Kraken's Aethervein is now banned in Living Legend. It is the first banned card in the Living Legend format. I think officially, like, fully banned. I believe that's the case. In fact, so that I can say that, let's go ahead and take a look. As we go down, banned. Those are banned in Classic Constructed. Blitz, forget that. Living Legend, just this one. There it is. These are the cards that are restricted, okay? So keep that in mind. But Kraken's Aethervein has earned the odious distinction of being the first banned card. And, well, like I said, I got to watch it, and I will say this as well. Leading up to the event, I played a good bit of Living Legend format, and it was the first and probably the deck I spent the most time tinkering around with, and it deserves the ban. So I'm really happy to see this happen first and foremost, make its way out of the format, because I think the Living Legend format is the future of Flesh and Blood, period, end of story. I think it will one day become the premier format of the game, and I think it probably deserves to be that in the future. Maybe not right now, maybe not in the next year or two, but certainly in the future, because I think it opens up so many opportunities for players to engage with the heroes of the old and the cards of old as well, and it gives you this like sort of infinite world of possibilities. Now, whether or not that ends up being the case long term, it's not for me to decide or for me to really even know. I could be totally wrong, so let me know in a comment below if I am. But Kraken's Aethervein officially gone. Now, a couple of things about this. We, at the event, I talked to a lot of players at the event. I talked to a lot of, my colleagues at the event, and this was, in no uncertain terms, the thing that people wanted the most. They could have maybe tried to like restrict Rampant Growth Life to one card, but even then you have access to Plume of Evergrowth, so you can still play it twice. The real issue is Kraken's Aethervein, so it's very easy for this to be the thing that gets moved out of the format, period, end of story, and just get rid of it. They talk a little bit about, what the power of Kraken's Aethervein, and in fact, very, very interestingly, they talked about considering a preemptive ban to it. And I will say, if they had preemptively banned Kraken's Aethervein, the event, the ProQuest Plus event specifically, at this past weekend, Battle Hardened Milwaukee, at that event, that would have had far more players, because the number one thing that I heard from players is that they just didn't want to deal with this type of deck, because the perception was that the format was broken. Now, funnily enough, it turns out that Prism actually won the event, because the thing about the deck that Kraken's Aethervein is all centered around, and specifically Verdance, it's just really volatile. If you don't manage in the first few turns to find the piece that draws you the piece or any sort of buff on Kraken's Aethervein, then it just doesn't really do much. Like, you end up like trying to cycle through your deck with cards that are cycling, and then finding the piece. Like, what you need is amp on the staff so that you can draw into the pieces of the combo, so that you can do the even bigger combo, right? Like, this is how it functions. And if you don't just draw the pieces you need to actually fulfill the combo, the deck really doesn't do anything else. But I think that's also part of the problem with a card like this, because if you're sitting there playing this volatile deck that is uninteractive to its core, regardless of whether or not you actually play the combo, if it's still pretty uninteractive, it's not creating exciting games of Flesh and Blood. Like, that's kind of the crazy part about Kraken's Aethervein, and specifically the deck that, was crafted around it. And also, funnily enough, the devs did a dev talk. In fact, specifically Brian Gottlieb, who's, I believe, wrote the article. Yep, Brian Gottlieb. And also James White himself. They talked about how Kraken's Aethervein in this dev talk was looked at on multiple occasions as possibly getting a sort of a buff. And on several occasions, they decided to not actually pull the trigger and buff the card because they knew the problematic game states that it could create and cause, right? And this art was actually commissioned for the buff card that would have gone on Kraken's Aethervein. So really cool, like, whole breakdown. You should go watch this. It's on the official Flesh and Blood channel, and it's pretty awesome. I mean, this is really cool art as well that would have fallen onto a card for, a Kraken's Aethervein buff. And honestly, it's kind of nice to see the pipeline in play, how this could have been in one set and they nixed it. Could have been in another set and they nixed it. And, of course, at this point, when they finally said, you know what, we're going to release ways to amp up damage, this is the time where Kraken's Aethervein's most likely going to have to make its way out of the game. And for one, I personally think it's a fine timing. The one downside of not doing it early is that event only had, a small number of players. It had like 20 something players overall, and again, mainly because the people that I talked to were just not interested in engaging in that format with this card around. And so with understanding that, LSS made the right call, and they did it quickly so that other players can now engage in the format, of which I, again, think it was actually incredibly fun. Casting all of those games was as fun. Maybe I enjoyed that more. I'm not sure if I enjoyed that more or commentating and watching the Classic Constructed gameplay. I think both were incredibly engaging, and the game is in a very solid spot. I know there's a lot of doomers out there, specifically around Kraken's Aethervein breaking the format in half, and also around, like count your blessings and things like that. But if you look at how this weekend played out, and I wrote a min-max article, and hopefully that'll go up pretty soon. If you look at how this weekend played out across the pond and here in the US, there's a lot of very exciting things going on. Yes, the calling was won by Enigma, and that's totally cool. But you come back over here, and we've seen now on multiple weeks, on multiple occasions, heroes that were perceived to be dead doing incredibly well and actually winning. Last week, Kano exists again, and all of a sudden now you need to worry about Kano and respect Kano, and Kano steps down because people respect that deck. And because its power level has been throttled down a bit, again, I think people are like super angry about about Open the Floodgates, and I don't think you should be, because it still requires a lot for that combo to fire off, and there's definite counterplays available and teching available to you. Then we also see Viserai, a hero that is like just straight up the bottom of the barrel until this moment when he steps forward and wins the entire Battle Hardened with a brand new archetype fueled by the new Rosetta set. It's crazy and it's awesome, and it means that there's so much more space available if you know where to look and design your deck with intent. Verdance goes from like this middling hero that no one really knows what to do with to being the there was a mirror match in the semifinal of two Verdances. One of them mid-range, one of them control count your blessings. And then that deck moves on and loses to the eventual Viserai, who just out-aggroes a count your blessings deck. Like, this type of engagement is not what people expected. I think it's safe to say that. By and large, it's not what people expected, and players have more space to work in. Heck, the one seed of that tournament was a Bolton player who went undefeated by beating great players on perceived S-tier decks. I mean, come on. That's unheard of and not expected by anyone anywhere all at once. So all I'm saying is that the meta, based on my perception, is super solid right now and still very open going into ProQuest season. And I also think that this move on Kraken's Aethervein, removing it from the format, is exactly what they should have. And I'm super happy that they did it right now, because this is going to be a very fun and very important format for the game going forward. Starting as early as Chicago, December 13th through 15th, The Calling in Chicago, and man, is it going to be very, very cool. All hosted, by the way, by MinMax Games, who sponsors the channel. So you should definitely check out MinMax Games if you're looking to pick up anything as far as singles or sealed product. I will say that when I was not commentating this past weekend, they let me open as many boxes as I wanted. So if you buy singles from them, there's a chance that I opened it just for you. So you got that to look forward to. This is all I had to say on the matter. I think it's a good solid change, and I'm looking forward to what they do. They also, by the way, in this dev talk, they hinted at some really exciting changes that they might have down the pipeline for Blitz as well. So whenever they announce those at Osaka, I will be covering it as well. If you enjoy videos where I just kind of catch you up on things, make a number go slightly higher, because numbers going up is what we're about. As always, thanks for watching.